So I've been using the software called GeoPix to map my three-dimensional LED object. There's a bit of a learning curve to it, but when you know what you're doing, it becomes fairly user-friendly and quite quick to prototype new designs. And you don't even need to set up any LEDs or hardware because it has a great 3D pre-visualization system, so you can see exactly what you're mapping, and it will also map the content to it all on the computer. But what's great about GeoPix is that it interfaces directly with the individually addressable LEDs. So I'm going to show you, just walk through step by step how I go about mapping something like this 3D cube, which consists of 12 modular pipes that have a helix spiral of LED strips inside of each pipe. So let's get started. So this is the GeoPix interface, and on the top right corner you can see my LED cube that we're going to be mapping. So first off, we're going to create a fixture, and this fixture is going to represent a cube. If you press S, there's snapping to help you to place the points, and we're going to be creating what's called a hall. And the hall is think of it like the data path for our LED. So, the first LED, then the data goes to the next LED. We're going to create that path. So I've created two halls snapped to the grid, and I created a generator. So this generator is showing us 10 pixels that are flowing along the two halls that we created. So I know that each pipe has 37 LEDs. So let's change that to 37. Right now the default visualization is a ramp, so it's just actually a circle. Let's have a look at that right here. So this is the texture that is being mapped to the LED. You can actually change it from a circle to a horizontal ramp. So let's see. So that creates a sort of a trace effect on our LEDs, from the very first LED all the way to the last LED, number 37. So nothing's happening right now with our real LED cube, so let's do something about that. I'm going to create a device, and this device I happen to know is a serial device that's connected to my computer. It's a TZ3.2, which sends serial data over a USB cable, and I also know that it's connected to the USB COM port 4, so we'll change that to 4, and we'll activate it by turning active from 0 to 1, and look at that, we've got some LEDs lighting up right now. So we've only mapped 37 LEDs so far, the total, so that's why you can see some of the other LEDs are currently white. He doesn't know what to do with those. But lo and behold, we can see our ramp, our trace effect, is the first 37 LEDs in our real LED cube. So that's very helpful because I know now where my starting point is. So I want to be able to map to the next pipe, take a 90-degree bend and move that trace along. So how are we going to do that? Well, we need to increase the number of LEDs from 37 to 74. So that's twice the number. Actually, I know that the total number is 12 times 37. So that gives us a total of 444 LEDs. If I change that now, you can see now we're actually lighting up an entire LED cube, with the exception of the very last pipe, which I haven't actually connected. So that's cool, but there's no mapping. It's just a very straight vertical trace, sorry, horizontal trace from the first LED to the last LED, the 444, in a sequential pattern. So that's showing right now the real cube shows that the LEDs are wired in series in a continuous loop, but there are actually 2 points where I jump in order to create a single data path for all of our LEDs. So we're going to be able to recreate that jump in GeoPix. But first, let's give ourselves something to work off of. This is a primitive, it's a cube. And that's handy because we have a cube in real life. So we're going to use this cube to map our data path, the whole to. But first, let's move the cube into the right place, because it's sort of floating in midair right now. It's sort of halfway in the ground, and I want it to be sitting on top of our plane. So moving that, I know that the measurement is in centimeters, and it's halfway, so I've changed that to 50 centimeters, so that it's sitting on top of the X and the Z and the Y. So that's in the right place now. So now we're going to create a new fixture, and this fixture is going to follow the edge of the cube. So in order to do that, we're going to add a hole, and we're going to start in the very corner, and we're going to test just quickly that we make sure we're going in the right direction. It should be going from the bottom to the top. So similar to before, we create 2 holes, and we're going to select those. We can use a marquee to select both of them. And I'm going to add a generator. So like before, this is 10 LEDs, but it needs to be 37. But I can already see that it's lighting up the first 10 LEDs in the real cube. So that's promising. Something I'd like to point out is the LED strip color order is actually different. So it's red, blue, and green. So I changed that, and now we're going to change that to 37 LEDs. And you can now see the very back corner is lighting up. That's great. So that tells us we're starting in the right place, and we have the right orientation, so we can keep moving. So what I'm going to do is do another test, and we're going to make sure we're taking a 90-degree bend. So place that second, or the third hole is hole, but it's called hole number 2. And we're going to use the little handy feature to extend our selection 2 times. So we've now selected all of our holes. Extend our selection. Selected all of our holes. And we're going to, I think we'll delete the pixels we created because we don't need those. Just give ourselves a clean start with the new 3-hole path that we created. So I'm going to select all of the pixels and delete those. Okay. So now we can create a generator. Make sure we've selected our fixture, select our holes are selected, and create a generator from selection. So great, now we're going around that 90-degree bend, but it's 10 pixels. Let's change that to 74. That's 2 of our 37 LED helix pipes. And I can see now on the camera that it's going in the correct direction. That's great. So this is promising. I now know that we can continue along the edge of the cube, and we're going in the correct orientation. So let's set ourselves up to kind of repeat the process. So I'm now drawing and using the snapping guide of the primitive to draw each hole. and I happen to know that the path goes along, up and down, and then it comes back to the beginning. And this is the point that we have to jump onto a different pipe. So I'm going to show you how we do that. But first, let's create a new generator, and we'll delete those pixels from before. And this generator is going to go to all 7 holes that we just created. Select them all, create a generator from selection. There's 10 LEDs going along the 3-dimensional path. Very cool. So 7 times 37 is 259. So let's add the total number of pixels for all 7 pipes. Great. So that's very cool. It's giving me the correct mapping, and the correct dimension, the correct number of LEDs, and it's mapping the ramp, the trace from before. And I just need to change the color order to red, blue, green. And there we go, it's looking great. Okay, as I mentioned before, we have to jump from one pipe to another one on the opposite side. So this is a little bit tricky. I prefer to do it outside of the primitive first, so you can see that we're mapping to the correct hole spatially, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So we're going to continue from hole number 7 to hole number 8, but 8 is going to be outside of the primitive, and then we're going to move it back inside of the primitive so that it is in the correct place. Okay, so using spatial snapping, that's the S key, we're going to create holes 8, 9, 10, and 11, but outside of our primitive, so we can see what we're doing. So I happen to know that we jump to the facing the camera, the front bottom right corner. So you can see now that I'm starting to draw that, and it's creating a data path. You know, it jumped from number 7 to number 8, and now I'm following the same layout to go 8, 9, 10, 11. The same way that I've wired it in the real pipes. So this one was going to be a new generator, and there we go. It's created 10 LEDs on the new generator, and that's 3 times 37, 111. So you can see that it's actually lighting up correctly on the camera, but the visualization in the GeoPix is not correct. So I need to move the 111 LEDs back into the cube. So to do that, I'm going to use the translate feature in the upper right corner. So let's select just the left 2 holes, and we're going to reset that to 0 in the Z-axis, and actually that needs to go to 100. There we go. Okay, so that's 100 centimeters offset from the first pixel in the Z-axis, and we'll do the same thing for the other 2, the right side, and there we go. We now have the 111 LEDs that we just created on the bottom of the cube in the right place. So all that remains is to create one more vertical pipe that's at the back left. There's not a map. You can see that it's white right now. It's not reacting to anything. So I want to replace that with some pixels that we haven't drawn yet. So it's pretty much the same process. And because we are only needing 2 holes, it's pretty simple. I think we can attempt to draw that directly into the cube. So let's line ourselves up so you can see exactly where we're going to place those last 2 holes. the holes 12 and 13. And click the bottom and we click to the top. That's the same way that is wired in the real LED cube. We're going to use the handy shift selection tool, select both of those, and generate. And hey presto, again we have 10 pixels by default, but we'll change that to 37. And wonderful. You have now mapped an entire cube except for the very front top pipe that's vertical, and that's just because I haven't actually wired it up in real life. But this is it. This is pretty cool. It's showing our trace, two-dimensional trace texture mapped from back to front. And let's play around with the textures. It's kind of cool. To show some other options that we have at our disposal for visualizations.